She is 36 years old. It is 11:47 at night. She is sitting in the parking lot of a Dollar General with her engine running because she cannot afford to let it go cold, and she has just done the math. Again. And the math does not work. Again. Her name is Tamara. She has a job, a real job, not some gig work side hustle, an actual salaried position, managing a call center team of 14 people in Memphis, Tennessee. She makes $42,000 a year. And she has $11.38 in her checking account and 4 days until payday. And here is the thing that Tamara cannot figure out, the thing that has been eating her alive for the better part of a decade. She is not irresponsible. She does not drink. She doesn't gamble. She does not own expensive things. She drives a 2014 Honda Civic with 190,000 miles on it. She just cannot, no matter what she tries, no matter how many budgets she makes, no matter how many times she swears this month will be different, she cannot hold on to money. The moment it arrives, it disappears. Every single month, like clockwork, like gravity. And y'all, that parking lot was the night everything changed for her. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because sitting in that car, in the dark, she asked herself a question she had never asked before. What if the problem is not the money? Stay with me, because what Tamara figured out over the next 2 years is something that most people spend their entire lives never understanding. And by the time we're done today, I mean that. You are going to see your own financial life through a completely different lens. And for some of you, that shift alone is worth more than any raise you could ever get. Here's what we're covering today, and I want to be straight with you from the jump. This is not a motivation video. This is not a believe in yourself and the money will come video. What this is a blueprint. A real, science-backed, story-proven, step-by-step breakdown of one of the most misunderstood forces in human financial behavior. The poverty mindset. What it actually is, where it actually comes from, why it is so devastatingly difficult to break, and, most importantly, what the small percentage of people who actually escape it have in common. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, you need to understand this. The poverty mindset is not about how much money you have. You can have $0 and not have a poverty mindset. You can make 6 figures and be completely trapped inside one. It is not about income. It is not about education. It is not about intelligence or work ethic. It is about identity. It is about the invisible operating system your brain has been running since before you had any say in the matter. By the end of this video, you will understand the 5 core beliefs that keep people financially stuck regardless of how much they earn. You will hear the real stories of people, including Tamara, who broke free and exactly what made the difference. You will get the neuroscience that explains why this is so hard and why that same science gives us a genuine reason for hope. And you will have a 7-step blueprint you can start using this week. Let's go. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine a child, 7 years old, maybe 8. Smart kid, funny, full of life. And growing up in a home where the word money exists in 2 forms only. There is not enough of it, or it is the source of the fight happening in the next room right now. This child never hears a conversation about saving, never hears a conversation about investing, never sees anyone in the house open a brokerage account or talk about compound interest or negotiate a salary. What they do see, what gets burned into their nervous system before they even have the language to describe it, is this. Money is dangerous. Money is unpredictable. Money causes pain. And money does not stay. Now that child grows up, gets a job, gets a paycheck. And here is where it gets wild. Researchers at Harvard Medical School and the Center on the Developing Child have documented something extraordinary. Children raised in environments of chronic financial stress show measurable structural differences in their prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the region of the brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and weighing future consequences against present temptation. The physical architecture of the decision-making brain is shaped by the financial environment a child grows up in. Let that sink in. This is not theory. This is neuroscience. And it means that before Tamara ever cashed her first paycheck, her brain had already been wired, by years of financial scarcity in her childhood, to process money in a very specific way. A survival way. A way that was absolutely necessary for the environment she grew up in, and completely counterproductive for the life she was trying to build. The poverty mindset is not a character flaw. It is an adaptation. A brilliant, sophisticated neural adaptation to a difficult environment. The problem is, the environment changed, but the adaptation did not. And that gap between the environment that no longer exists and the programming still running in response to it is where most people's financial lives get destroyed. Here is the statistic that should stop every single person reading this in their tracks. The National Endowment for Financial Education found that 70% of lottery winners, people who received millions of dollars, often tens of millions, end up broke or in financial distress within 7 years. 70%. The money was not the solution, because the money was never the problem. The operating system was the problem. And nobody had changed the operating system. Now, I want to walk you through the 5 beliefs, and I need you to approach this with a completely open mind, because some of these are going to feel like common sense, not like poverty thinking. Some of them masquerade as wisdom, as practicality, even as virtue. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. Belief 1. Money is always about to disappear. This is the scarcity loop. And it is the deepest, most foundational belief of the poverty mindset. When you grow up in a home where money is unpredictable, where payday is a relief and the week before payday is a crisis, where the electricity gets cut off and then comes back and then gets cut off again, your brain learns one thing above everything else. Do not trust money to stay. And so the moment a paycheck arrives, the nervous system does not say, "Great, now let's plan." The nervous system says, "Spend it before something happens to it." Not because you are irresponsible, because your brain was trained, for years, sometimes decades, that holding money is just postponing the moment it disappears. Tamara told me, "Every payday felt like I was holding a cup of water with a hole in the bottom. I knew it was going to drain, I just never knew how fast." So unconsciously, she made the hole bigger herself. She spent it down before life could take it. It felt safer that way. Real talk. That is not weakness. That is one of the most heartbreaking examples of a survival strategy outliving the survival situation I have ever encountered. Belief 2. Rich people are either lucky or corrupt. This one disguises itself as intelligence, as being awake to how the world works. And there is a grain of truth in it. Yes, privilege exists. Yes, systemic inequality is real. We are not pretending otherwise. But here's what this belief is actually doing inside the brain. It is coding wealth as something that is only accessible through circumstances you do not have. Luck, connections, inherited advantage, moral compromise. And if wealth is only accessible that way, then for an honest, hard-working person like you, wealth is effectively impossible. And the brain, your beautiful, efficient, pattern-recognizing brain, will not fully commit to a goal it believes is impossible. So, the moment you start getting close to real money, close to a real opportunity, something in you pulls back. Something says, that's not for people like me. And you self-sabotage. Not because you're weak, because you're protecting your identity from disappointment. A 2019 study published in Psychological Science found that people from lower-income backgrounds systematically avoid behaviors associated with wealth accumulation, including negotiation, networking, and self-promotion, even in situations where those behaviors would directly benefit them financially. The researchers called it class-based behavioral avoidance. The mind protects what it knows. If wealth is coded as not mine, the mind will protect you from it. Belief 3. Talking about money is shameful. In a vast number of working class and lower income households, across cultures, across ethnicities, across geographies, money is not discussed calmly and strategically. It is either screamed about during a crisis, whispered about in anxiety, or not discussed at all. Financial literacy is never modeled as a normal adult conversation. So people grow up financially illiterate, not because no one loved them, because no one showed them, and because the subject carried so much shame and fear they never sorted out themselves. Shame makes people avoid, and avoiding the subject of money is one of the most efficient ways to remain poor that exists. Belief 4. I am not the kind of person who builds wealth. This is the identity belief. And identity is the deepest level of human programming. Your financial behavior will almost always match your financial identity. Not your income, your identity. If you believe you are someone who is just not good with money, you will unconsciously make decisions that confirm that story. If you believe you are someone who always ends up broke, your subconscious will engineer outcomes that prove it. Not because you want to fail, but because the brain craves consistency between belief and reality. It wants to be right about you. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades researching exactly this. Her work on fixed versus growth mindset shows us that the identity narrative we carry about our capabilities is not a reflection of our potential. It is the primary determining factor of it. The story comes first, the financial results follow. Belief 5. Surviving today matters more than planning for tomorrow. And here is where I need you to really pay attention, because this belief is the one that gets weaponized against poor people the most. This idea that if they just had more discipline, more willpower, more long-term thinking, they would get out. Researchers at Princeton University published a landmark study in 2013 in the journal Science. They found that the mental burden of financial scarcity, the cognitive load of worrying about not having enough, consumes measurable brain power. Their conclusion was stark. Financial worry effectively reduces functional IQ by the equivalent of 13 points. 13 IQ points. Not because people in financial stress are less intelligent, because chronic financial anxiety occupies the prefrontal cortex, the planning brain, with survival mode processing, leaving dramatically less cognitive bandwidth for future-oriented thinking. So when someone tells a financially stressed person to just plan better, the cruel, precise irony is that the experience of financial stress makes planning harder. The poverty literally impairs the mental capacity needed to escape the poverty. It is not a moral failure, it is a neurological trap, almost impossible to break from the inside. Almost, but not completely. Now I want to introduce you to 3 people, because none of this matters if it stays theoretical. And none of this is hopeless, which I know might be hard to believe right now if you are deep in it. So let me show you the actual moments where things changed. Let's start with Deshawn. Deshawn grew up in Baltimore. His mother was a home health aide. His father was in and out of the picture. By 22, he had a criminal record, 1 charge, non-violent, and a job washing dishes at a hotel making $9 an hour. Every paycheck gone by Wednesday. Every month, the same story. His turning point was not a book. It was not a YouTube video. It was a Tuesday afternoon when he was cleaning up after a luncheon in one of the hotel's private event rooms, and he overheard 2 businessmen talking about real estate. Not buying mansions, just regular property, a duplex, cash flow, tenants. And Deshawn said, he told me this years later, I remember thinking, these guys aren't geniuses. I can tell they're not geniuses. So why do they know things I don't know? And that question, not inspiration, not a motivational speech, just genuine bewilderment at the information gap, that question sent him to the library that night. He started with 1 book, then another. Then he found a landlord in his neighborhood who had started with 1 rental property working a regular job. He started asking questions. He started showing up. He started learning the language of money that nobody in his family had ever spoken. It took him 4 years of grinding, 4 years of not spending money the way he used to spend it, 4 years of discomfort, 4 years of his friends thinking he had become weird, before he bought his first property, a small duplex in East Baltimore. He was 26 years old. Today, Deshawn owns 7 units across 3 properties. He still works at the hotel, by choice, not necessity. And he says the luncheon room was the most important room he ever cleaned. Now back to Tamara. After that night in the Dollar General parking lot, Tamara did not immediately become a different person. That is not how this works, and I need to be honest with you about that. What she did was this. She called her older sister the next morning and said, I need to understand why I keep doing this. Help me find someone to talk to. Her sister found a financial therapist, yes, that is a real thing, through their local credit union. And in the first session, the therapist asked Tamara 1 question that broke everything open. When you were a child, what did it feel like when money showed up in the house? Tamara said she sat with that question for a long moment, and then she said, temporary. It always felt temporary, like it was going to be taken away. And does money feel that way now? The therapist asked. Tamara started crying before she could answer, because she realized for the first time in her adult life that yes, every single paycheck still felt temporary, still felt borrowed, still felt like it belonged to something else and was just passing through. And the moment she could see it, the moment the subconscious pattern became conscious, it lost some of its power over her. Not all of it, not overnight, but some of it. That is where escape actually begins. Not with a budget app, not with a raise, with seeing the thing you could not see before. And then there is Marcus, a name that comes up again and again in these stories. Marcus grew up in South Chicago. Single mom, 3 kids, Section 8 housing. He dropped out of high school at 16, got his GED at 19, and spent his early 20s cycling through warehouse jobs and retail jobs and construction jobs, and never, not once, holding on to money for more than 2 weeks. His turning point was getting passed over for a promotion at a distribution warehouse. The job went to a 23-year-old with a business degree who had never worked a warehouse floor in his life. And Marcus was furious. Not sad, not resigned, furious. Real talk, that anger was the best thing that ever happened to him. Because he channeled it. He did not drink it away. He did not let it fester into bitterness. He pointed it at one specific question. Why does that guy know things I don't know? He enrolled in a community college business class at night. He found a mentor through a small business development center. He started a lawn care operation on weekends with equipment he bought at a pawn shop for $340. Within 3 years, that operation had 6 employees and a $180,000 annual revenue. He was 28 years old. The anger did not destroy him. It launched him, because he refused to let it stay unfocused. Here is where the hope lives. And I need you to hear this clearly, because the same science that explains how devastating the poverty mindset is also the science that explains precisely why it can be changed. The human brain possesses what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the capacity for neural pathways to be altered, weakened, and rebuilt throughout the entire human lifespan. This is not a metaphor. This is literal biology. The beliefs and patterns and automatic responses that make up the poverty mindset are not carved into permanent stone. They are patterns of neural firing, and patterns can be changed. Dr. Norman Doidge, neuroscientist and psychiatrist at Columbia University, documented this extensively. Every time you think a thought, you reinforce the pathway associated with that thought. Every time you take a new action, even a small one, you begin building a new pathway. The old one does not disappear overnight. It weakens gradually as the new one strengthens. We'll get to that in a moment, but first you need to understand this. The speed of change is not proportional to the size of the action. Research from University College London established that it takes an average of 66 days, not 21, that is a myth, 66 days of consistent behavior before a new action becomes automatic. That means 2 months. 2 months of showing up differently. 2 months of small, specific, repeated choices. A Princeton study also demonstrated that simply reducing financial stress, even temporarily, through a windfall or an improvement in income, measurably improved cognitive function in low-income participants within weeks. The brain is not permanently damaged by financial hardship. It is impaired by it. And impairment, unlike damage, can be reversed. So here is what this means practically. Every small financial decision you make differently is not just a financial act. It is a neurological act. You are literally rewiring your brain one choice at a time. The action does not have to be big. It has to be consistent. And here's something nobody in personal finance ever says. You do not need to change your beliefs first. You need to change your behavior first. The beliefs follow the evidence, and the evidence is built by action. Tamara did not wake up one morning believing she was good with money. She started acting like someone who was learning to be good with money. And after 6 months of evidence, small, daily evidence, the belief started to catch up with the behavior, not the other way around. I have spent years studying people who genuinely broke out of generational poverty and financial scarcity. People who started with nothing, in some cases worse than nothing, and built real, lasting financial stability, without a lottery ticket, without an inheritance, without a viral moment. And across every story, every background, every city, every starting point, 7 specific patterns show up again and again. Not 5, 7. Pattern 1. They got angry before they got motivated. Inspiration on its own is fragile. It feels good in the moment and evaporates under pressure. Anger, directed, focused anger, is rocket fuel. Every single person who broke out of the cycle had a moment of genuine rage. Not hopelessness, not sadness, fury. A moment where they said, out loud or in the quiet of their own mind, I refuse to accept this story for 1 more year. For Deshawn, it was the information gap. For Marcus, it was the promotion. For Tamara, it was that parking lot. The trigger was different every time. The fuel was the same. Pattern 2. They found one real human who had done it from a similar starting point. Not a billionaire, not a celebrity with a podcast. One ordinary person who started where they started and made it through. This matters neurologically. The brain will not fully commit to a goal it believes is biologically impossible. And if everyone who looks like you, grew up like you, talks like you, is still broke, part of your brain codes financial success as impossible for you specifically. Finding one real person who made it from your coordinates rewires that code. Deshawn found a landlord in his own neighborhood. Marcus found a mentor at the Small Business Development Center. Tamara found her financial therapist. None of these were famous. All of them were real. Pattern 3. They changed their proximity before they changed their income. Your brain calibrates normal based on the behavior of the people closest to you. This is not a motivational cliché. It is a documented phenomenon in behavioral neuroscience. If your entire social environment operates under scarcity mode financial behavior, your brain will resist any action that deviates from that norm. Because deviation from the group, even beneficial deviation, triggers a threat response. Every person in these stories made a deliberate shift in proximity. Not abandoning their people, no one asked them to do that, and it would be wrong to, but adding new environments. One business owners group, one financial literacy class, 1 hour a week somewhere different. The financial normal of that new environment slowly became part of their own normal. Proximity is contagious. Pattern 4. They chose one specific goal over a general aspiration. I want to be financially free is not a goal. It is a daydream. I'm going to save $1,500 over the next 5 months by cutting 2 subscriptions, packing lunch 4 days a week, and selling 3 things I do not use from my apartment. That is a goal. Vague goals allow vague effort. Specific goals demand specific action. And specific action is the only thing that builds new neural pathways. Every person who broke the cycle arrived at a level of specificity
that made them uncomfortable. Because specificity closes the escape hatch. You can't wriggle out of a goal that precise. Pattern 5. They separated their childhood story from their adult identity. This is the deepest work and the most important. The poverty mindset was written by a child who had no choice but to adapt to difficult circumstances. It was written by parents doing their best, by systems not designed for your success, by an environment that is gone now, even if some of the people in it are still around. You are not that child anymore. The rules that kept that child safe: spend it before it goes. Don't trust that money stays. Wealth is for other people. Do not have to govern your adult life. But separating yourself from that story requires grieving it first, acknowledging it, honoring what it cost, not minimizing it, not performing gratitude for hardship, but genuinely acknowledging that was real. It shaped me, and it does not define where I go from here.
Tamara wrote a letter to the 8-year-old version of herself who learned that money was temporary. She wrote, "You did what you had to do. You kept us going. But I'm the adult now, and I've got this." She told me she cried for 20 minutes after she wrote it, and then she opened her bank app and set up her first automatic transfer. Pattern 6. They made their first savings amount non-negotiable. Not $500, not $200, not whatever is left at the end of the month. $25, automatically transferred the same day the paycheck lands, before any other decision is made. This sounds ridiculously small, and if you are rolling your eyes right now, I hear you. But the amount is not the point. The neural signal is the point. Every month that $25 stays in that account, your brain receives a message. I am someone who keeps money. Money lives in my life. This is safe. That message, repeated for 6 months, begins to dismantle the scarcity loop at its foundation. Tamara started with $25. Deshawn started with 40. Marcus started with 30. None of them started with what they could afford on paper. They started with what their nervous system could psychologically tolerate holding. Pattern 7. They treated every setback as data, not identity. Because there will be setbacks. There will be months where the old programming comes roaring back, where the budget collapses and the savings get drained, and it feels like none of the work has made any difference at all. The people who ultimately break free say, "Interesting. What happened? What do I adjust?" The people who stay stuck say, "See, I knew I couldn't do this. I'm just not that kind of person." One response collects data, the other confirms identity. And your brain, your neuroplastic, rewirable, genuinely extraordinary brain, will build whatever future the identity you feed it demands. All right, here it is. Not theory, not inspiration, the actual blueprint, written out clearly so you can start this week. Not when things calm down, not when you make more money, not when you feel ready. This week. Step 1. Name your poverty narrative. Get a piece of paper, actual paper, and complete these sentences without filtering. In my house growing up, money meant... The people who had more money than us were... Every time I get close to saving something, I am not good with money because... Do not edit. Do not make it sound better than it is. The first thing that comes is what is running the show. You cannot change what you cannot see. Step 2. Identify your scarcity trigger. A trigger is the specific situation or emotion that activates your old programming. For Tamara, it was payday itself. The moment money arrived, the urge to eliminate it arrived simultaneously. For Marcus, it was being around his old crew. The environment pulled his old behavior back automatically. What is yours? Write it down specifically, because knowing the trigger is 80% of the solution. You cannot interrupt a pattern you cannot identify. Step 3. Build a non-negotiable micro-saving habit. $25. Auto transfer. Payday. Done. Set it up before you finish this video if you can. The size does not matter. The consistency does. The signal it sends to your own brain does. Step 4. Find your real-world proof of concept. One person. Not on a podcast, not in a book. An actual human being in your actual world who built something real from a starting point similar to yours. Join one group, attend one event, show up to one space where the financial normal is different. Once a week for 66 days. Step 5. Change your financial language. Stop saying, "I cannot afford that." Start saying, "That is not where I am choosing to put my money right now." Stop saying, "I am terrible with money." Start saying, "I am building a new relationship with money." Stop saying, "Rich people are just lucky." Start saying, "Wealth is a learnable skill." This is not positive thinking for its own sake. Language activates different neurological states. Helpless language activates threat response. Agency language activates problem solving. The financial decisions that follow each state are completely different. Step 6. Build a 66-day streak on one micro-habit. One. Not a list, not a system. One. Check your bank balance every morning. Pack your lunch. Read 10 pages of a financial book before opening social media. Whatever it is, one thing, 66 days, no breaks. Research from the Dominican University of California found that people who tracked their progress toward a goal with accountability were 76% more likely to achieve it than those who simply intended to. 76%. The tracking is not administrative busy work. The tracking is the transformation. It builds evidence, and evidence rebuilds identity. Step 7. Write your new financial identity statement. 3 sentences, present tense, as if it is already true. Something like, "I am someone who treats money as a tool, not a threat. I make financial decisions based on where I am going, not where I came from. Money enters my life, stays in my life, and works for me." Read it out loud every morning for 66 days. In a mirror, if you can. Your own voice is the most trusted voice your subconscious has ever heard. You are using it to overwrite programming that has been in place for years. It works not because it is magic, but because it is consistent neurological input delivered in the highest trust channel your brain has. That is the blueprint. 7 steps. Not one of them costs money. Not one of them requires a perfect life situation. Every single one of them is available to you exactly where you are right now. I want to say something directly to you now. Not as a narrator, not as someone with a script, just as someone who has spent a lot of time inside this topic and wants to be honest with you about what I have learned. The poverty mindset is not your fault. Let me say that again, because I need you to actually hear it. It is not your fault. It was not created by your weakness, or your lack of discipline, or your bad choices. It was created by your intelligence. It was your brain doing exactly what it was supposed to do, adapting to a difficult environment, building rules to keep you safe, developing patterns that reduced pain and unpredictability during years when pain and unpredictability were constant. That is not a flaw, that is survival. And the fact that you are here, that you made it through whatever circumstances shaped you, that is not nothing. That is everything. The only problem, the only real problem, is that the alarm system your brain built for that environment is still going off in an environment that no longer requires it. The fire is out, but the alarm hasn't been told. And the work, the real work, the work that Deshawn did and Marcus did and Tamara is still doing every single month, is not about grinding harder or wanting it more or being stronger. It is about telling the alarm, we are safe now. We do not have to run this pattern anymore. There is a different way to be. Tamara is not rich. I want to be real with you about that because this is not a fairy tale. 3 years after that parking lot night, she has an emergency fund, 4 months of expenses, the first financial cushion she has ever had in her adult life. She no longer dreads payday. She no longer dreads the week before payday. She has a plan, and she trusts herself to follow it. Not perfectly, consistently. She told me recently, I don't think about money the way I used to. It used to feel like something chasing me. Now it feels like something I'm in conversation with. That sentence, in conversation with, is one of the most precise descriptions of a healthy financial mindset I have ever heard. Not obsessed with it, not terrified of it. In conversation with it, engaged, steady, present. And Deshawn, 7 rental units, still cleaning hotel rooms because he loves the job, not because he has to. And Marcus, a business that created jobs for other people in the same neighborhood that once felt like a ceiling. None of them was special to begin with. They were just willing to see the thing that most people spend their whole lives refusing to look at. The programming underneath the struggle, the belief system underneath the behavior, the child underneath the adult. And here's what I want to leave you with, the real spark. You are already different from the person you were before you started watching this video. I know that sounds like a line, but it is not. Information changes the brain. This conversation has created new connections, new questions, new frames. The neurological work has already begun. What you do with it from here determines how far it goes. We'll get to that in a moment, but first you need to understand this. The single most important thing you can do after watching this video is one thing. Not 5 things. 1. Pick one step from the blueprint, just one, and do it today. Not tomorrow, not when the timing is better, today. Because the poverty mindset survives on delay. It lives in the space between I should and I will. And the only way to close that space, the only way, is to act before the motivation fades. You are not your history. You are not your parents' financial story, or your neighborhood's financial story, or the story that got written about you before you were old enough to write your own. You are the person in this moment choosing what happens next. And that choice, that one, quiet, private, nobody else needs to know about it choice to do one thing differently today, is the most powerful financial decision you will ever make. Not because of what it saves or earns, because of what it tells your brain you are. Let that sink in. For real this time, not as a phrase, as a truth. You have everything you need to start, right now, exactly as you are. Y'all, if this video hit different for you today, if something in here cracked something open, there is one more you need to watch next. It is called The Wealth Gap Nobody Talks About: Why Some Families Build Generational Money and Most Never Do. And it goes even deeper into the behavioral and psychological patterns that separate people who build lasting financial legacies from people who stay in the cycle. It is one of the most important videos we have made. Link is right there on your screen. And if you are not subscribed yet, real talk. This channel drops new science, new stories, and new blueprints every single Wednesday and Saturday at 8 a.m. We are building something here. You do not want to miss it. Hit subscribe. And if you know someone sitting in their own parking lot right now, going through their own version of what Tamara went through, share this video with them. You might not know it, but it could be the thing that starts their story. I will see you in the next one.